Well, hello everybody. We are back on doing some commentating. It's the second squad of the day, eighth squad of the week, and we have a very interesting partner now with me sitting on my side. Is the official Kegel representative, and it's going to be very interesting to talk to you. Welcome,
Yeah, always
first
good
of
to
all.
be here. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's an honor, and I think it's going to be very good for the audience because we have been having some questions about the lane profile. If we find out is it easy, is it tough, why is it tough, why is the score not going so high, and both me and Robert Anderson was talking earlier with me, and we have been trying to explain what we see as ex bowlers or former bowlers and coaches and we said a little bit like try to make people understand that the profile may be a little bit tougher or a little bit easier, but what really goes on is what the players do with that oil profile. So it's not so much that the profile, of course, is not a very easy profile. We will all agree of that. It doesn't have that much friction on the corners, so it does give you a little bit less of room. But we try to explain that. And I blame myself. I even said that when I was younger and I had less knowledge, I was one of the people that would also say, this guy up there making the oil, he made something, it's not proper, something is wrong, or maybe
Well,
the machine's not working, all this kind
we
of
all
excuses,
do
right?
that as bowlers, right? We always find someone to blame but ourselves, right?
Absolutely. But I said to myself, and I promised them, I'm going to try to bring you in because I would really like to get the expertise point of view and see how you see the game evolving, how you see the transition happening. And there's a few questions I also think I would like to ask you. One of the things that has caught my attention is I believed as soon as the pattern or as soon as the squads would move forward, that the lanes would get a little bit easier. I was expecting that the lanes would open up a little bit more for for games 5 and 6, but the reality is going a little bit against what I was expecting, and we have seen a little bit less of room created than I really believed it was gonna be in there. So it's not really a single question. It's just like an overall question. How do you see and how do you expect the week is going to progress? You think the people is going to find out which kind of balls they want to put on the lane so they don't burn the head so much, and then they can still have some area and a little bit all around. Just your point of view and see how you see things.
Well, it's obviously a loaded question, right? There's so many variables that affect how the lane plays, how the squad plays, even the whole week, Obviously, we have so many players entering the squads and trying different strategies every single squad. And I think at the moment, we are kind of in this middle period at the moment where the first couple of squads they started okay. The second squad we had a few scores come in, and then some more players came in, tried different strategies. Now even more players are coming in and actually re-entering and trying something else, which I think a lot of times that's what causes the scores to kind of fluctuate a little bit. And at the moment, we're not seeing as many higher scores just because I think the players are really searching for something different. So you see quite a few players have tried a few squads already, and every squad they try to do something different
Hmm.
since they haven't put up a score yet.
Hmm.
And I think that's why we're seeing the pattern not really, how do you say,
Responding into
open up
opening up, yeah.
towards the end of the squads. You're seeing a little bit of a different transition every squad.
Inconsistency when you get to the end of the squad, and depending on which pair you end up bowling, depending on
Correct.
what they have been doing on that pair previously,
Yes.
it's
So
going to affect you one way or the other.
sure. So obviously, you still have quite a few players trying to play with urethane. Then you have quite a few players that are trying to start further in. So all of those things, I think, affect the way these squads play, and that's again that's the experience that we normally get when we have a lot of reentries and a lot of squads. You know, We also started to see some players sort of give up after 3 or 4 games and
Hmm.
then just kind of just bowl anywhere really, when they don't have a score, which I think also affects the way the lanes play as
Exactly,
well. And then,
exactly.
I mean, we saw it in a previous squad where Martin Larsen had quite a few points going up into the last
Hmm.
2 games, and
Hmm.
then he just didn't manage to finish it off. And again, I think that's just the lanes just play a little different than the previous squad, and that's normal. And again, the players dictate how the squad is going to really shape up towards the end. So that's really what I'm seeing at the moment. I think we're in this middle ground where players are kind of searching for the right look, and I think once we see a little more score, maybe towards the middle of the week, and
Hmm.
then some other players will come in and find something different. I think we're going to start to stabilize the scores a little bit, and hopefully the scores will start to
Score
go up
gonna
a
be
little bit,
a
a
little
little
bit
bit up.
higher,
Yes.
and then we can expect what I was
Now,
really hoping at the beginning, that the last two games should be a little bit more of room in there, should be a little bit of extra area.
sure. Now, don't get me wrong. The pattern is very difficult.
Hmm.
It's supposed to be very difficult. That's what we aim for. And again, difficult is all relative, right? It's all to
Hmm.
the scoring pace. And one thing that I think as a as bowlers, all of us are kind of recently, as of recent years, I would say we're kind of used to having a little higher scores than.
Hmm. Than
So
we did
now,
10 or 15 years back, that's
so
for sure.
now it's more like when the scoring pace is just a little bit, lower.
Lower,
We're kind of
you
some
get
bowlers freak out a little bit, I
you
think,
get some
and
insecurity. You start doubting: Am I on the right spot? Am I doing the right
you
shots?
know,
Am I grabbing
if
the right ball? And then
correct
it's too
and
many things in your head instead of just focusing on
well,
keeping it
especially
simple.
I've seen it quite often now that if certain bowlers don't put up a five bagger very easily, it starts to play with their head a little
Yeah.
bit. Now you
Hmm.
start missing some spares,
Hmm.
and when you miss a couple of spares and you cannot put five bagger around it, now your score goes down real quick.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting to watch this and see how players adapt to a lower scoring pace, how they grind, how they make their spares, how
Hmm.
they adjust to different pairs, how they move around, how they change their equipment, how they change their physical game. Which to me, when we work on these patterns, those are the things that I think about. I really, for those that know me and seen me create patterns, I do like to give them a challenge. Now, it could be a different challenge every time. Last year we had a challenge and everyone kind of played out.
Hmm.
This year we have a challenge to where the lanes hook quite a bit and you have to kind of control your break points a little bit and maybe use your speed to your advantage. We're also talking about rev rate this week so far.
Hmm.
In recent years we've been focused on rev rate. Everyone wants tried to get
Power, power,
just
power.
tried to get so much on a bowling ball,
Hmm.
and it has been kind of say how to say rewarded for those people that get a lot of rev rate. It seems like at this event so far, if
You
you
need.
can control your rev rate, I think that's great. But if you just get a lot on the ball and don't know where it's going, you might be punished a little bit more for
It
this.
reminds me a little bit of the previous, I would say maybe 4 or 5 years when I don't really follow so much the PBA, but when I've been following it, this is a lot of these new two-handed bowlers and stuff like that. But every time that they bowl the U.S. Open, where it's usually the toughest patterns, all of a sudden you see the older guys like Nom Duke and like that showing up, and like, ooh, here they are again. And I always said to myself, it looks to me from the distance, because obviously when you're not on the tour and you just you see what you see online, you make your own ideas, but from a far perspective. And I always said to myself, it seems to me like as soon as the pattern is really complicated, the old school guys seem to have a better chance than when it's a very high scoring pattern. And it feels to me like it's happening a little bit in the same way in here. The lanes are a little bit more demanding than what they usually are bowling lately on, or especially in the European zone. It usually we are having kind of open patterns with very very high scoring. We have seen it on the Opens. We have seen it even on official European Championships and stuff. Not the last one in Denmark, but until that one, it was a lot of high scoring pretty much everywhere. And now it feels a little bit that way. Like when you get them a little bit to be in a little bit tougher condition, doubts come in. Definitely sparing is it's very important. And these guys strike 9 times per game. If they miss one spare, it's really not a problem. But when the strike rhythm goes down to only 5 or 6 strikes, That means you have to spare 4 or 5 times. And if your percentage is not 95%, it's just 80%, you're giving away one frame every single game. And as you very well said, since you're not striking that match and you're not making those five bagger, you just make a couple of doubles and a couple of misses, you end up being on a 200 or even 190 something. And that's why we're seeing so many scores that they're not really reaching the 100 over by the end of the squad. They're standing on 20 over, 30 over. For example, if we look at the scores at the moment on this current squad, we have only 8 bowlers on above par or above par. We have Anton Persson with 456 and Victor Albin 444. Then we drop down to 417, and we have many bowlers below the par. And for those who are listening and watching on online and they are not really professionals or they don't bowl that often, it can be a little bit confusing when they see, oh, this squad they suddenly score a lot, then on the next squad they go down. One guy is shooting 250, 250, and then all of a sudden goes all the way down to 150. It can be a little bit confusing. So I really, really appreciate that you are now with us because as a bowler or as a coach, you can give them an idea, but it's always easier for them to understand when a professional of the lane conditioning can explain the way things are happening and how they are happening. And it's very important for amateur bowling to understand that so many factors are intervening on whatever happens on the lanes. And not only the traffic, not only the other bowlers, which line they are using, which balls they are using, but also the temperature in the bowling alley, the weather outside. Is it dry day? Is it a wet day? Is it a hot day? Is it a cold day? It's so many factors that are really you need to take in consideration, or at least understand that they may affect in what's going on the lanes.
Well, one thing I can add to that, obviously, as you mentioned, there's so many factors that affect how the lane pattern plays or how the squad plays, but there's also the pattern itself. It's very important to still give yourself a best chance to succeed on a given pattern, but you really need to start to like pay some more attention to what the pattern is asking for and what the pattern intent is.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not really paying attention to the pattern, or maybe you just look at the distance and maybe the volume and say, okay, well, it's a longer pattern, so I'm gonna play here and then use my standard bowling balls and stuff like that. That doesn't always work. And in this case, I'm not sure how many of these people are actually studying the pattern. There is, even though it looks pretty simple on paper, there are a couple of things that I think trick them into doing some wrong things. One of them, just to kind of mention it, is buffer brush speeds. I mean, if you look at the pattern on the forward pass, from 30 feet onwards to the end of the pattern, the buffer is much slower. The way how fast it spins, it's actually much slower. So that layer of conditioner down lane is pretty thin. And I think that's why some of the people are, or some of the bowlers are struggling to see.
They felt it was going to be longer than it
Correct. So
actually
the
bolts
pattern
or
actually
actually
plays
plays.
quite a bit shorter than I think it is, and that's done with purpose. When we tested the pattern over here, I was aware that there was my original versions of this pattern. They had a little bit too much push, which when you give bowlers push, usually the scores will go higher. So I wanted to take some of that away, and I wanted the bowlers to actually use their skill to create the push.
Absolutely.
Instead of giving them free push.
I
So
understand.
now what I've noticed so far in the squads, a lot of bowlers are still trying to hook the bowling ball so much.
Grip it so much. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of grip going on. There's a lot of reps still being put on a bowling ball, which is okay if you can still create the right shape. But what happens is, now you don't have as much push, so the higher rev rate players naturally want to go further left if they're right-handed and try to open up the lane. Well, that also hasn't really worked very well either because there's quite a bit of out of bounds. So what I'm seeing so far and what I expected out of this pattern is that you will want to play somewhat closer to the pocket, but you will really have to control your hand, your ball speed to keep the ball in the play.
Be a little bit more consistent. It's not so much about the power, but being a little bit more precise in what you do, a little bit more repetitive.
Correct.
Maybe
So
give up 10% of your power
yes.
and focus a little bit more on
Yes.
being consistent on what you're doing and let the ball do the job instead of you forcing the ball to do the job.
Correct. So as we saw, William Svensson put up a couple of good scores already, right? And
Hmm.
even though he's got quite a bit of rev rate because he's two-handed,
Hmm.
his hand is very soft
It's
at the
bowling a
bottom of
lot
the release.
smoother than I
He's
usually see him.
he's letting the ball do the work, as you said, and he gets the ball to float through the pattern,
Yeah.
which I
Mm.
think that's the kind of like the key of this pattern as well. I've also seen way too many bowlers trying to use way too strong of an equipment.
I thought the same. Then and the ball
Um,
is kind of dying in the middle of the
Well,
lane.
not even exactly. I mean, potentially it might lose energy sooner because we do have a high friction lane
Hmm.
surface. But we also, like I said, that the layer of conditioner at the end of the pattern, probably third of the pattern is very, very thin.
Mm.
So if you're throwing too strong of a ball, you grab it too much, you put too much rev rate, or maybe you don't have enough ball speed, that bowling ball has no chance to create push.
No,
So in
no.
my eyes, a lot of bowlers are not really helping themselves at the moment.
They feel like they
But
have no room outside, no room inside, but
correct.
probably if they grab the right ball and did the right hand position and maybe smooth it down a little bit and let the ball do the job, they still wouldn't have room outside, but they would have a little bit of room inside.
Right. So, I mean, this goes back to the point when I create these patterns, or anyone at Kegel really, we always try to look for, of course, it all depends on what event it is.
Hmm.
If we have a, some sort of a easier event, of course, we're going to create a pattern that's a little bit easier. I consider this to be an elite event.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I
there's a
mean,
PBA
it
title
has to
that's
be.
been
It's a
given
PBA
away at
title,
this
so you
event.
cannot make the
So
lanes.
when I work on this pattern, to me, it's very important that a bowler would use, how to say, I try to think of multiple layers when it comes to the pattern. So I
Hmm.
want the bowler to use proper technique, proper equipment, and play the proper part of the lane.
That's
So
a.
instead of making it only one variable that you have to worry about, let's say a bowling ball or your
Hmm.
release,
Hmm.
I want you to worry about a couple of things when it comes to this. So for you to really match up, you have to worry about your equipment, you have to worry about your ball speed, you have to worry about your rev rate, you have to worry about your axis of rotation, you have to worry about who you follow and stuff like this. So to me, I think this pattern is achieving this so far. I'm pretty happy what I'm seeing it,
Hmm.
and I know lots of bowlers will probably be frustrated after this week,
Ah,
just
for
because
sure, they're gonna be
obviously.
upset and stuff. But let me stop you for a second because I believe that is one of the most, I would say, one of the best tips we can give to the amateur bowlers, especially when you're on countries that they are not so, where bowling is not that big. They don't have that many coaches that really know the game or can explain you how to bowl, how to read the lanes, how to adapt to whatever you're finding. And I mentioned that because I'm coming from one of those countries that we have a little, not me at the moment. I've been very lucky, very fortunate to spend my life surrounded by the best bowlers and coaches in the world. So I grabbed as much information as I could from all of them to try to learn, and then I tried to help my country, but it's not always easy. But what I mean is, for all those countries that are not so big in knowledge, the fact that we can help the amateur bowlers understand that you don't have to use the same ball and the same line wherever you go, because that is one of the biggest mistakes I see on amateurs today. 25 years ago, even 30 years ago, when we had only three balls or even two balls, I can understand you always grab the same ball, and let's say I'm always bowling on the second arrow. But now that we have so much equipment around us, that we have even the lowest average bowlers in any country, they all go into a bowling center with six balls,
Hmm.
at least. So if you have six balls with you, you carry six balls that they are supposed to work on a different window, each one of them. Why you end up always grabbing the same one and standing on the same position and aiming on the same target and kind of playing the lottery. Let's see if today is my lucky number.
Hmm.
So we are trying to make you all over there that listening and watching understand that do not be afraid to try and test different things. Grab different balls, learn to bowl on different lines, learn to control your speed. There's a lot of things you can learn to do different, and just open up your brain a little bit into today's reality of the game. We have much more stronger material than we had back in the past. Obviously, the balls have 100 times more friction than they had in the past. I remember even the first reactive ball like Excalibur. In most of the patterns today, people would use it as a spare ball. That ball wouldn't hook anymore. And that ball, when it came in the first time, it hooked like 10 boards more than any of the urethane that we had back then. So what I'm trying to say to those guys who are really amateurs and but you really love the game and you're following online and that's why you're watching and listening to us talk like what's Kakatua? I don't know how you say it in English. It's one of those exotic birds that manage to speak and they make noise all night long. But what we're trying to say is that do not be afraid to change your balls. Do not be afraid to change your lines. Actually, the more you do that, the quicker you're gonna get to understand this new evolution on the game and when each ball is fitting and when each ball is working better for you. So I think it's a very, very good information and very valuable information, not only from a bowler like I was or a coach like me or Robert before, but you as a professional of the oil patterns that you can help them understand that. I think it's a very valuable, very valuable.
Well, technology has clearly advanced quite a bit since some years ago, and I think there is a lot of technicality when it comes to bowling. There's many variables that bowlers have to consider every time they step on the lanes. Um, Obviously, the bowling balls are evolving. Every single release seems to be, some new cutting edge technology and stuff like
Hmm.
that. Um, the patterns are also trying to adapt, to different styles. Now, obviously, we do have a lot of challenges when it comes to designing patterns, just because we have to deal with a lot of different styles, and we want to try to be as fair as possible to everyone.
Hmm.
We want to feel like uh,
Everybody has a fair chance. Yeah,
everyone has a fair chance, and to be fair, that's become very very difficult.
I understand.
But of
It must
course,
be even harder now with one-handed, two-handers. Such a
however,
big difference in their technique and the speed of their ball, the reps on their ball.
correct. So that's why we're always trying to rely on hoping that the bowlers can adjust to all these different patterns. And I think this shows up the most when the conditions are a bit more challenging, because
Hmm.
now you're really trying to see which bowlers really know their equipment, which bowlers come prepared with different types of equipment, not only just like only certain type of bowling ball, but you're also seeing the bowlers that have skills in their toolbox in a way,
Hmm. Hmm.
what their releases are like, what their ball speeds are like. So I think the biggest or the best way to really find out these bowlers is when you challenge them a little bit more. It's of course, again, even if the conditioners are easier, bowlers have to still strike.
Hmm.
But now if the conditions don't require as much, how to say it,
I,
as
I
much of a skill set, I feel like you don't always find the best bowler in a way.
I try to explain them in my own country. They have the tendency to bowl in super easy conditions, and I mean super easy conditions. And sometimes I tell them, you kind of bowling as if it was a mini golf. You know, where whatever you send the ball, it doesn't matter because it's gonna end up in the hole no matter what. And then I tell them when you get used to these kind of easy patterns over and over again, your brain stops looking at a very small area. You stop targeting on a very small area. So whenever you go to bowl on a real competition with a tougher pattern, because you're aiming, I had this actually. I had this phrase coming out of one of the bowlers I asked a couple of months back. Where are you aiming? I asked, and he said somewhere between second arrow and third arrow. When he said that to me, I was like, how is that possible? I remember when I bowled for real, I sometimes even looked at the lines separating the boards. That's how thin my target
Hmm.
became at some events. And now they are aiming between those two arrows, and but that's not reality. That
Well,
or maybe a reality. It's what's coming down there. But when they go out, and that's what happens when they go to the European Championships and stuff like that. They happen to go from 240 average in the last three events to all of a sudden 170 average, and that is for them. It's hard to understand. It's hard to accept. But I try to tell them if you bowl all day long and all the year with such a huge window, how the hell you pretend to adapt in one day into such a small window?
yeah. Now the of course, the as we say uh, at Kaggle a lot of times, is that you're a product of your environment.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you are sort of surrounded with, um, that's how you usually tend to bowl. Now, that's not always the bad thing because, obviously, if you grew up in a high friction bowling center, you probably tend to throw it a little faster.
Mm.
If you grew up in a center that doesn't have as much friction, then you tend to roll the ball a little bit more and you throw it a little slower. Maybe your
Yes.
rev rate's a little higher. Now, of course, if you're trying to achieve something good in this sport, you want to try to be as versatile as you can. You want
Absolutely.
to have different types
Absolutely.
of releases. You want to invest your time into studying oil patterns and see what advantage you can gain from an oil pattern,
Mm.
which honestly a lot of times I'm still surprised, and that's maybe just the way the bowling environment is right now, that a lot of bowlers tend to somewhat ignore what the pattern is these days anymore, just because, well, I'm just gonna go in and do the same thing,
Mm.
which that's what we've kind of been speaking about, just doing the same thing all over and over again. And events like this now, where we're seeing that the same thing doesn't work, this is what's happening. Now we're kind of seeing some of the bowlers try to really figure out what the pattern is doing and how to adjust, and some of them are really struggling. And as much as I don't like to see bowlers struggle, at the same time I somewhat enjoy that a little bit, because you can see which ones are kind of
Who's gonna
coming
open up?
through,
Yeah, and
and who's gonna
open
try
their
to really
eyes.
work hard to try
Mm.
to figure out what can I do to actually improve my score, match up to the lanes better, and maybe just get those extra couple of pins to get in the cut.
Yeah, it makes all the sense. Let me update the scoring. We have just finished the third game, so now we have Anton Persson is leading this squad with 67 over. Second position is Emmanuel Johnson with 648. Martin Paulson managed to make another 225 games, so he's now on 642. Anton Algren also 639. Now it's only 7 bowlers who are standing above 200 average. So yeah, it's not a very high scoring squad, but uh, but it's good because then it helps us explain a little bit better what we're trying to tell, especially all those amateurs bowlers that you really want to try to learn a little bit more about oil patterns, because that also is not going to give you the information to pick up the right ball, pick up or try to be at the best area or avoid the penalty zones, but also is going to put your mind in the right state of mind. I mean, you cannot go into a pattern like that and believe I'm going to make 1500. I'm going to bowl 250 average because that's what I've been doing for the last 6 weeks. If you understand a little bit the pattern, you're probably going to go like, okay, maybe I'm going to be happy with 1250 on the first time, on my first attempt. And
That
then when you relax, it goes even better.
No, that's a very good point, and I think that's why it's important to set your expectations right. I've seen so many missed pairs right now, and I've seen so many games where a bowler gets a couple of doubles in the game, but then they have two holes around it, and
Mm.
now all of a sudden you have a two-team game going, and if you miss a couple of easy spares, now it's a 180 or a 170 in some cases, and I think you really hit the nail on the head on that one. When you have your expectations set before you go in a squad, and the pattern graph itself can really tell you a lot of those things if you study that. And obviously, I'm sure bowlers are now realizing that this tournament is going to be decently difficult to score. So if you set your mind in the right place to where you're going to be happy with a 9 spare, you're going to be happy if you left a 2 pin or a 4 pin off a maybe bad shot, even a 3-6-10. If you avoid some splits and stuff like that, I think how to say, this generation of bowlers, especially, we're so used to striking a lot.
Mm.
It's unbelievable how many strikes we throw, which is obviously a lot of times it's cool to see. But it's also cool to see what happens when you don't
When
strike.
you don't strike, yeah,
And
how you
when
respond
you
to
put
that.
value on a 2 bagger or a 3 bagger, can
Mm.
you make a spare in the middle of those to save your game? Can you make one split here and there in the game to also to boost your chances to put up a better score? So I always enjoy watching events like this. I enjoy creating patterns that are a little bit more challenging
Mhm.
than our standard patterns. As we saw it in previous years too. We had a last year we had a bit of a higher scoring pattern. The pattern play to the outside, like
There
we
was
spoke
more
earlier.
friction outside.
There
You
was
always feel
definitely
more comfy when you can
correct. There was
just
much
miss
more
out.
room to miss. The
Mm.
players, were a bit more comfortable. And then this year we obviously pushed them in a little bit, and we asked them to do, like we spoke about before, like multiple layers of adjustments.
Mm.
And like I said, I really, to me, this makes it, again, I'm a curious bowler. I want to see different things. I want to try to learn as much as I can as well. and I enjoy watching all the adjustments that top bowlers
Oh,
make.
it is indeed very, very interesting, and that's another reason to learn as much as you can, guys. Because then when you see a tournament like this one, you're not really focusing only on, oh, they're not striking. I'm gonna go watch football instead. I'm gonna go watch a tennis game. If you really understand what's happening, it's actually even more interesting than when they have those 270, 270, 270. It doesn't really matter where they put the ball because they're gonna strike anyway. And when they have this kind of demanding, as you said, it's very interesting, and it kind of separates the good bowlers from the super good bowlers, those who are really able to adjust to whatever they find on the next pair, those who are really paying attention to what goes on the next pair I'm going to hit, who's bowling there, what line is he using, what ball is he using, is he going to make the lane a little bit easier for me, is it going to be, oh, I'm going to be, I better pay attention because he's using such a ball in a line that I'm going to be in trouble when I get there. So that also, it puts you on the right state of mind.
Yeah.
Also, all these little details and stuff like that, it's super important, and it's a reality of the game today. You cannot avoid it anymore.
Well, that's why I think bowling is an interesting game, just because we have the ability to control the environment a little bit, right? And I think there's the right time for easier patterns, and I think it's the right time for the harder patterns. I think we should have a pretty mixed variety of these
It
patterns, right?
should be, it should
So
be.
obviously we have lots of events that have like sequenced events as we speak.
Mhm.
So I firmly believe that some events should be easier and some events should be harder. Um, and that's why like I keep referring to last year. The cut score was pretty high.
Mm.
So again, this year we wanted to lower it a little bit and make sure that the bowlers feel like they're challenged a little bit. And once in a while, I think it really doesn't hurt to have an event that's a little bit lower scoring,
No,
just so we
exactly,
can challenge the
exactly.
players and make them understand that there's multiple layers to the game of bowling.
I actually have to say on the Catalan Federation, uh, 3 years ago, they asked me to put a few patterns for the national championship. And I said to myself, I'm tired of these easy patterns. I'm going to put three patterns that for them is going to be very demanding. For me, it was not that it's going to be that demanding because actually one of the patterns was exactly the same pattern, or not exactly because it was a different machine. But I tried to shape it as exact as I could to what the International of Barcelona was in the 2000s when I bought late 90s and 2000. And back then, I remember Michael Larsen shot 240 average. I shot about 239 average. Spanish lefty, veteran, and on all the ball, he shot 239 average. That same pattern when I played, or when I put it 3 years ago on the Catalan national championships, it was only I made the par. No one else made the par, and everybody was so upset. They were saying, "This is so difficult. Why you make the lane so difficult?" And I was trying to explain, it's not that difficult. It's the same one you guys bowled 215 or 210 average 20 years ago. But now you got used to such a big room. As soon as the pattern was a little bit more demanding, you felt like, I mean, it wasn't flat at all. Actually, it was every board was a little bit more. It was like a complete castle. But you could miss maybe one out, one in.
Yeah.
But since they got used to miss four to the right and four to the left, the fact that they could only miss one, it became impossible. So that makes me think that, especially for the smaller federations, sometimes, especially when they have this kind of easy patterns all day long and every condition, maybe it would be even smarter or even more smarter not to hire a coach, but to hire somebody like you from time to time to go down and explain and show them and kind of help them develop something, if not for everybody, at least for the national team bowlers, some kind of pattern that they can, okay, if you like Spanish team, I know they are meeting 3 or 4 times a year and they have some certain ranking events. They should bowl in tough conditions. I mean, they should get ready for what's coming later on when they go to the European Championships or the World Championships. You're not going to find a ratio of 15 on a World Championship. You're not going to miss six to the right and still hit the pocket.
Nah, I think ideally you just want to have a combination of patterns that you practice on. Not to say that you should only practice on difficult stuff. because, like I said, there is a skill to striking as well.
Mm.
When the lanes are easy, you still need to learn how to strike, and you
Yeah,
strike a
yeah,
lot.
yeah,
How
absolutely,
to put a
absolutely.
five bagger, a six bagger, a seven bagger together. I do think it's a great skill as well. When a bowler can just strike for days, as we say.
Mm.
But you're also the most talented bowlers will always figure out a way to strike when they're difficult as well. So I think when it comes to like national teams and more at advanced professional bowlers and stuff like that, I think there should be a fine line between practicing on easy stuff
Mm.
and practicing on the
Mm.
medium stuff, practicing on the hard stuff as well. Just like you would practice on a short pattern, on a medium pattern, or a long pattern. I think you should think the same way when it comes to difficulty as well. Now, you know, that's what I say. That's also a little bit of a downside of being able to control the environment is the fact that we can make them so easy.
Mm.
So a natural, in my mind, the human nature. Of course, you want to strike as much as you can, and if you can wall the lanes up very
Yeah,
easily,
man. I mean, I can
now it becomes
understand
pretty easy, and
when
you
the
can.
bowling alleys decide, no, this is my bowling
Correct.
alley, this
So
is my business, and I want people to have fun. So I'm gonna make the lanes easier. So everybody, every customer that shows by is gonna go home with a
well,
big smile.
that
That
comes
I
as
can
a
understand
that comes
on
a
the night
business side as
leagues and
well.
exactly.
Correct.
But then when we're talking about national championships,
Correct, but you also have to consider the human factor in here because a lot of these people that go to bowl leagues or go to your bowling center, they want to feel good about it.
hmm
Now, if an average bowler doesn't feel good going into the bowling center, the likelihood of them coming back
yeah,
gets
that's the
slimmer.
big fear. That's the big
So
fear for
there's always a very
those
fine
alleys.
line between making them harder or more difficult. And we can sit here and chat all day about whether it should be easier or harder. And some will say, oh, they always have to be hard. Some will say, well, no, they always have to be easier. It's an endless discussion that we're going to have. But
I guess it's a little bit also which kind of environment you grew up on.
correct. So it's more, and it's also how much you're involved into game of bowling too.
Mm.
If you're, if you're, it's if you go to the events like this all the time, you probably do want them to be a little harder because your skill set is going to be a bit more advanced than your average bowler, let's say. And then if you're only bowling in league, of course,
Now
if you
you
only
want it
come into the
easy
bowling center
because,
once a
yeah,
week and you
yeah,
just want to have a
yeah.
good time, of course you want to be, to have your events easy. That's why I'm saying that I think there's a fine line between practicing on easier stuff and practicing on harder stuff. I also think that there should be a good balance during the events. Like certain events should be easier, certain events should be a little harder, and obviously we're fortunate enough here in Sweden in Helsingborg at Olympia Bowl and with the crew here allowing us to do patterns, different variety of patterns. So
Mm.
like again, I keep going back to the previous couple of years. We had some higher scoring events, we have some lower scoring events. So we're really trying to do a variety of patterns every time. So that way the bowlers don't feel like it's the same thing every time.
But that's very good. I mean, it was very nice chatting with you. I don't want to steal so much time from you anymore because I know you're going to be busy all week. You have to take care of so many things and the lanes, squad after squad. It's very long days. But I truly, truly appreciate you coming by, passing by, giving us your point of view, your perspective, and helping hopefully people understand a little bit better what goes on and what's happening and what's not happening. So I thank you very much for coming by, passing by,
Nope.
and I'll see you around the alley.
Yep. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, buddy. Back to business. I'm gonna talk a little bit extra about the scoring pace. Let's see. Anton was leading with 67 over. And let's see if I can find it. So many people bowling at the same time. And now it's only me watching in here. So it's only two eyes. You're going to excuse me if I take a little bit of time to find them. Where's Anton playing now? Oh, there. I found him. Lane 7 and 8 is 15 below the par at the moment on the sixth frame. Then we have Emmanuel Johnson had 648. And Emmanuel is now on lane 13 and 14. He's got a double split with no pins, but then a turkey again. So he's about 13 or 14 above the bar with 6 frames. And then we have Martin Paulson was doing okay. And Martin is now with double, so it's 5 over par on this game. not really seeing any high scoring. It's not becoming the highest score in this squad. We have on lane 1 and 2, for those of you who are curious, we have from the Czech Republic, Andre. Andre was very successful like 6 7 weeks ago when we bowled the World Cup under 21 here in Olympia in Helsingborg. So he's obviously doing things a lot different than he did back then when they bowled the World Cup for under 21. There was a lot of friction on the outside. The pattern was set the ball pretty far to the right. He was using his purple hammer. And now he's bowling reactive. He's bowling pretty deep inside in the lane, and he's obviously adapting to whatever the squad is giving him. But for a young kid, he's one of the most talented guys in Europe at the moment. If you forget about Sweden and Finland, it's always nice to see kids doing so good from smaller federations. So Andre at the moment was close to par, I think. Yeah, it was 592, and on this game he's about 27 over. But that means we are on game 4, so he's gonna still need to shoot at least 480 or 490 on the last two to make the squad valuable. See, some bowlers have been bowling many squads already. We have Zacharias also bowled a little bit sooner. Still trying to find out what goes on. Marcus Jansson was playing as well. Son of Raymond. Actually, I saw Raymond outside. It was maybe 10 years I haven't seen Raymond. Raymond is the father of Marcus. And Raymond is the guy I was telling you the story yesterday with Robert, that he left the 8 pin on the World Cup 1995, World Championship 1995 final to lose the gold medal with a perfect shot. And yeah, Marcus seems to be struggling a little bit on this squad. He's probably going to keep on trying things so he can get some information for later on. Yeah, it's not many things happening, so I'm going to take a 5 minute break and I'm going to go try to find another partner that I can introduce you, and so we can have someone else talking and giving you their perspective and point of view. It's going to be growing up during the week as soon as more PBA stars show by, and we're going to keep on trying to feed you guys with the best comments we can and the best people around, best bowlers in the world. Louis talking. I'll be back in 5 minutes. All right, I'm back. I just, as I promised, I was going out there and find another partner, and I found a very interesting person to talk to. He has been doing, along with his colleague, a seminar this week about mental game. Strike Mind Academy. Welcome
Yes,
to the
thank you. Thank you
streaming
so much.
online. We have been talking a little bit about scoring, and we are following obviously how it goes. But it's a very long week. It's a lot of things going on. It's a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
squats yet to happen, and so I think it's a very interesting thing that we can talk a little bit also of these surrounding events that are
Yes,
happening
yes.
besides the tournament. And one of the things that happened, as I said, was your seminar about the mental game. And do you want to explain a little bit for those who have missed it and those who haven't seen it online? What were you talking about? What were you trying to help achieve, and what you were trying to help the bowlers understand?
Yes,
And it
yes,
was not
yes.
only for bowlers, but for coaches and
Yes.
parents, etc., etc.
What we want to achieve if is that we want to start a movement. So people around the community of bowling start thinking about the mental part,
Hmm.
which is a big thing in bowling. If it doesn't matter how good technique you have if you don't have the mental part with you, and we try to give them some tools to yeah, make it both off the lanes and on the lanes,
Hmm.
because the mental part starts already when you register to a tournament like this. Then you start to think, oh, what will the pattern be, how shall I live during well, I'm down in Helsingborg and everything, so the mental part starts several weeks before you.
Long before you hit the lanes.
Definitely, but
Yeah.
it's subconscious.
Hmm.
So, but when you start thinking about every pieces that you need, the puzzle that you need, it's huge.
It's one of the things that mostly on amateur bowling they don't really realize. It's not so much spoken about it. You, especially on amateurs, they believe that everything is technique.
Technique and ball
If you
and the
want to
bowling
score
balls.
high, it's going to be technique, technique, technique,
Yes,
technique. Nowadays, it's not only technique. You also need to understand your equipment. If you have the wrong ball in the hand, it doesn't
yeah,
matter how many times you hit the pocket. If it's the wrong ball, it's not going to give you the carry.
exactly, exactly.
So that's another thing you have to keep in mind. Lane reading is obviously important. If you stay on the wrong part of the lane, you're
Rain
going to be.
lady reading is one part of the mental part, because if you're good at reading the lanes, you won't get so surprised and nervous when the lanes changes. So reading the lanes is a big part of the mental part also.
But on the other hand, what I'm trying to make our viewers and listeners understand is that there's a lot of things involved
Yes,
in
yes,
this
yes.
sport.
That we do naturally and don't think of it as a mental part, and how much you also can train up the mental part of bowling.
Hmm.
It doesn't come of itself. You have to feel it, experience it, and when you do, it's such a wow feeling.
I mean, the brain is also a muscle.
Yeah, definitely,
You need
definitely.
to practice it.
Yeah,
You need
yeah.
to train it.
It's
Otherwise, it's
muscle,
impossible to
the
get.
muscle memory in the brain.
You don't get the 100%
Exactly,
of
exactly.
it, and that's a part that you don't need to be in the bowling alley to train. You can train your brain back home. You can train your
Every
brain.
day, and all the things that we try to teach, those advices we give, you can have in your personal life outside the bowling alley, in the job, or if you meet people you don't like at the airport or everything,
Mhm.
you can cool down your mind with a good practice.
So you want to tell us a little bit
About the
so
seminar.
so far, yeah. What have you discovered? What have you learned about how to control your brain, how to control your fears, how to control your thoughts,
Yeah.
how to get used to get that control quicker and stronger?
The first thing that I think of when you ask me this question is that so many people have confronted me and my coworker Alex, uh, how important this is. Thank you for starting this. And for me, that's wow. It's really bigger than I thought.
Mm.
And the more we have only been around for 2 months, we're not even registered a company yet,
Mm.
but. Uh, during that little time, the lessons I've learned on the way is enormous. And every day when I talk to bowlers, parents, coaches, I learn a new way of thinking the mental part and maybe how I should give the advices to bowlers or anything. That changes from day to day because I learn every day, which is lovely.
That's what I mean. And what we're trying to let people understand is that the same way you can work on your release, or you can work on your steps,
Yes,
or you can work on getting better understanding of your equipment, you can also work on getting better mental
yes,
control,
yes.
be more focused, be a little bit less afraid, stay in control
Mm,
when the anger wants to show up. All these kind
yes.
of things you can also practice and learn and become better.
One thing we lifted yesterday is that knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have of yourself, of the lanes, the oil pattern, that makes you stronger.
Mm.
So knowledge is not only which bowling ball to use, it's also how you should use yourself and the
Mhm.
abilities you have. And this is together with breathing. We focused a lot of the seminar to breathing yesterday because
Mhm.
it is one of the biggest thing that you can do out on the lanes is to breathe right. There's so you get the right oxygen and CO2
Mhm.
around to your cells and everything in the body. So
So this is scientific already. When we're talking
yes,
that
yes,
we
this
this
this is
has been studied, this has been proven. It's not
this is
coming
not
from bowling, but
not
coming from psychology
exactly.
and people who are real
Yeah,
expertise on how the brain and how the cells
we
work.
we are trying to gather all the information that we can and put it into the bowling community so
Hmm.
it fits the bowlers. But as I said, everything can be used in daily life
Hmm.
because it is part of what psychiatrists and so everybody's talking about. Just we put it in the sports frame.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
very interesting, and that's why I wanted you to come by for at least
yeah.
10,
Thank
15
you, thank
minutes,
you.
so we can really open up and for the viewers,
Yeah,
some that live maybe too far away and they don't really have the chance to fly all over to Europe or fly to Sweden,
yeah,
and but they are watching online and they are interested on the game. They have a passion for the game, and they want to learn as much as they can. And usually, when you see some bowling streaming, it's just they're talking only about what's happening at the moment on the
yeah,
lanes.
yeah, yeah.
But the spirit of the Lucky Larsen event is not only about the PBA event; it's about a big, big bowling family all around the
Yes,
world.
yes, yes,
We
yes.
want to be friends with everybody. We want to make everybody feel welcome, and even those who have no chance to be here, let them know we are trying to spread knowledge. We're trying to spread
Yes.
good energy.
And if there are any questions, I think they can write to your YouTube channel and ask questions.
Yeah, right away.
And
Absolutely, absolutely.
if you have questions regarding my area, you fetch me, and I'll
Yeah, just
come
go
try.
ahead.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
try to answer it as good as I can. I
Mm.
can't answer everything because the mind is individual.
It's not only mysterious, but
Oh my God.
everybody's so different, and every brain is
The brain is just is both good and bad.
it's a magic box.
Sometimes we overthink things. That's the down part of the brain.
Especially when we are afraid of something.
Yes.
Especially
Then we
when
go
you're
to
scared of whatever.
fly or flight mode,
Mm.
and also in bowling, when you get nervous, what your brain telling your body is, we have to run,
Mm.
or I have to fight back.
Mm.
Mostly, hopefully, we fight back and
But
live through that nervous time, and we get stronger from it. Next time you get nervous, you get nervous again, and then you just, well, okay, I got nervous last time, and I got through it.
mm.
So now I'm trying to look what happens on the lanes.
It's a lot of things going on the lanes, but It's not a very high scoring squad.
No.
I already said that on the warm up. I saw some people that it's the first squad they bowl on the event, so obviously they have not tried the lanes before,
They
and
getting the knowledge.
they have been trying a little bit of multiple lines, multiple different type of balls, and already during the warm up they were kind of messing a little bit
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pattern, and that was something that was a subject that we have been speaking
Christy
with the
Jonas, I
official,
think.
yeah, with the
Yeah,
official
yeah,
Kegel representative here. It was very interesting. It's not only that people has to believe what we say, or as a bowler or
yeah.
ex-bowler or as a coach, but somebody who is really a professional about oil patterns and lane conditioning,
Yes, yes.
explaining what
Hopefully,
and how many factors are there involved.
hopefully those who coming later this week listen to what Christy Jonas have to say, so they don't destroy the lanes directly in the warm up.
Mhm.
Listen to what Christy Jonas has to say, because he is a professional lane maintenance guy. So listen, go in and listen. If you haven't listened, go in and listen to that interview.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting stuff. Now back to scoring for a little while. We had
Yes.
Anton was leading with 108 pins over after 4 games, and as Robert Anderson was telling us yesterday, Anton is a bowler who really feels comfortable as soon as he moves into the lane.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I haven't really had seen Anton bowl before. It's one of the first times I really see him bowling. At least I don't remember. And the fun thing is that when we were talking with Chris a little bit sooner, he said that the pattern seems to be demanding a little bit less rev rate, a little bit more easier through the heads. And Anton is having this kind of
Speed.
yeah, speed and
Yeah.
not excess,
I was
trying to let the
actually,
ball work a little bit
when I
more.
stood outside here before you came and asked me if I could be here, I was standing thinking, uh, the tempo. Uh, Many people of the guys, girls standing here trying to hook, 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 and the ball just over and under react.
Hmm.
If you have the right tempo, not trying to get so much rev as possible, I think the pattern will be lovely.
We were saying that it's a demanding pattern, of course,
Yes.
but whatever happens after a few frames and a few games, no, somebody else's.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Some technician probably having a phone call.
Yeah, probably Victor.
Yeah, but no problem. But what we were saying is that even if the pattern is quite demanding,
Yeah.
it's what the bowlers do with it that are going to make the pattern easier or tougher. And that's
Uh,
why it's so big difference from one squad to the other. Not
I'm.
not only how good or how bad the bowlers are, because Anton was playing on the
Yeah.
previous squad,
Yeah.
Martin was playing on the
Yes.
previous squad, Emmanuel was playing on the previous squad,
Yeah.
and we have some big names in there as well, like Theodore Samuelson,
Yeah. Yeah.
like Andre from Czech Republic,
Yes.
super talented kid.
Definitely.
So it's not that they all of a sudden they don't know how to bowl. It's that the traffic that we have been having in this squad with the new bowlers coming in,
Mm.
and a few of them, maybe 5 or 6 of them, a little bit more amateur. They're not really using that same area. They're not really using that same line
No.
as we saw before when Team Sweden was
Yes.
on the
Yes.
lanes. So that also, that traffic, it's causing the lane to become a little bit tougher.
Yes.
And that also is part of what we said. If you get the knowledge and you understand what's going on around you,
Knowledge is power.
you're not going to get so angry or so upset, and
Yes.
you're going to
Yes.
stay in control.
For us at Strikeman, this is the best thing that can happen, that the lanes are tricky, because then we go into the mental part.
Hmm.
How do you think when, as we see Anton here, he started with 237 and next game to 167 and he jumps back to 235.
Hmm.
How does his mental work to jump back up again?
Hmm.
And this is a perfect way for us to interview them and get to know their mental part of it. If
Absolutely.
the lanes were too easy, it wouldn't been fun to interview them.
Then everyone is kind of relaxed in their mind when the lanes are
Yes,
very,
yes,
so no,
yes.
nobody gets into
You don't have to
anxiety,
overthink.
no
No,
fears.
no, no. Everything is routine then. Now many of the players here have to go out their comfort zone
Mm,
because I have to try something new.
mm.
And every time you go out of that zone, your brain starts, oh, I'm not familiar with this. And there goes the brain.
And that's also one thing, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's one of the things I read a few years ago when I was trying to get better as a coach. I tried to read a lot about how the brain functions
Yeah,
and how the brain consumes energy.
yeah,
And one of the things I've learned is as soon as the brain needs to do something that is not as usual, it demands a lot more energy.
oh, yes,
It's not
yes.
no longer in the automatic mode, so it requires a lot more concentration,
Yeah,
a lot more thinking on what I'm doing, and then you can get exhausted a lot quicker.
definitely, definitely. Uh, and the more you practice, the more tournaments like this you're playing, the more you allow your brain to stay in the comfort zone because you teach your brain, as we said before, the muscle memory.
Hmm.
So I'm just sitting here watching if anyone is playing really, really, really good, and I don't. Andre is like 20 over this game. He is
Yeah,
202 and working on a spare.
we remind everybody that on the fifth and the sixth game is turbo. So that means the guy with the highest score on the fifth game and the guy with the highest score on the sixth game of the squads at the end of the week, they're gonna have a pass into the final. But so far, I don't see any really high game going on any lane. Maybe a couple of 230s, 240s, but nothing around 270 or
No,
280. So
no.
no one's gonna grab the turbo at this point, and we will have to see what goes on the sixth
Is the
game.
turbo for the early bird squads, or is it all squads?
I think it's all
All
squads,
squads.
but that the technician is gonna let us know. Is the turbo working for the whole week? Whole week.
Yeah. We
Lovely.
have that Robert Stålkrona.
Thank you, Victor. What would I do without you?
We have Robert Stålkrona. He can end up at 269.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. 269.
Yeah,
I think at the moment it's 268.
something like that, I
We
think.
will
Yeah.
find out pretty soon. 268. Yeah, Victor
Victor
confirms.
confirmed it as
As I
usual.
said, I just said, what would I do without Victor? I would be
But
completely
now,
lost.
I talked to Joachim Karlsson
Hmm.
after his squad before he went home, and the games 3, 4, and 5 they are tricky.
I know. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
and we were talking a lot about the mental part, and he told me what he had in mind for the next weekend when he comes back, and I said the thing you do to me now is debriefing. You're letting me know what you are going to do, and when you lift it up and talk about it, your brain starts to work more.
Mm.
What to come, what you are going to do next weekend.
Visualize in a way.
Exactly, visualize.
Visualize.
And he also has the knowledge of the cores and the balls, and he felt that 3 or 4 of my bowling balls this weekend weren't for this pattern. So I hopefully know what to bring for the next weekend.
He's not the only one with that idea. I can confirm that Robin Ilomar is going to be the same.
Yes,
He's going to go
yes.
home and bring some different equipment.
They are here. The early birds are good for getting over the lanes.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, those in between players gets hooked in the middle because they are trying out
Hmm.
and sort of destroying the lanes,
Yeah.
which probably going to do when they know what to do and come back for Friday, Saturday, the lanes are going to be different.
That's why I keep keeping my bet on 1350 cut, even if it's only one.
I lowered mine from 1330 to 13. 13.
1300?
Yep.
No, no, no way.
You don't think so?
It's going to be higher, for sure.
Yeah.
people eventually has to end up learning that the pattern is not that tough.
They are going to. They are going to.
They are all gonna start using the same spots, and then the
Yes.
lane is gonna open up a little bit
Yes.
more.
Like it did last
So,
year. We see what happened this year. Last year, I had the feeling that the lanes were easier in the evenings.
but they were easier anyway last
Because,
year
yeah,
compared to
yeah,
this one because you
but
had the friction
you
outside, so
had
you
the
can miss a
degrees
lot more.
outside were 30,
Hmm.
so the humidity and everything in the alley was totally different from this year.
Mm.
So last year I had the feeling that the squads in the evening were a little bit easier than those in the morning because the air conditioner stuff when they get to work in the mornings it's still some kind of humidity in the alley,
Mm.
and the longer the air condition
Stays
works,
on. Yeah,
then it gets totally different in the evenings.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, I'm gonna
Yeah.
focus back on
Yes, yes,
the
sorry.
scoring for a second, so we
We have
don't get
227.
people lost. Okay, Anton Algren was with 108 over, but
Where
I
is he
don't
now?
see him. Where is it bowling?
You should sit a bit beside us, Victor, because you have the brains. We only have the looks.
The brains and the eyes. Yeah, I found it. He's gonna make a 210, so he's gonna
That's
be
still good.
already
Yeah,
on
that's still good.
120 over. If he managed to, and it was lane 7 and 8. That was the pair that caused a lot of issues to Martin on the previous squad, Martin
Yes,
Larsen.
yes, yes. I heard that.
And not that the lane or not that the pair is gonna be as bad as it was, because as we've been saying all day long, the lane is gonna evolve depending on what the bowlers who have
Yeah.
been there have been doing on that lane.
The
But usually the easy pairs are always the easy pairs, and the
yeah,
tough
yeah,
pairs
yeah,
are
yeah.
remaining to be
The
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 tough
thing
pairs.
I think those middle games here that just keep it together and make your spares and make like 210 215.
Mm.
That's really good, and hopefully you can do like 250 260 the last game, but keep it together so you don't do like 270 130.
Yeah, that's what you want to stay away from issues, stay away from
Exactly,
trouble.
exactly. Easy shots, easy way to the pocket.
We have 1060 for Anton Persson. It's going to be the squads of the Antons for what I see. Anton Algren 119 over. And then to find another
Andre
Andre is
122.
22 over.
Yeah.
And
22, sorry, I said
there
122.
is Thomas Anders with I'm
Emmanuel
1,000.
Johnson is he's going to be a bit over, I think. He now has 1,000 and a double to work on.
Emmanuel had 78 over, and if he strikes out, he's gonna make it to 10. So he
Yeah,
could
yeah.
still go all the way up to 90 over. So
Then I
he's
think
gonna
he's
need
going to be
to.
the squad leader.
No, the leader is Ogren.
If he shot to 15, it's 80,
Yeah,
84.
but Ogren is already 120 over.
He's not done yet. Yeah.
At 190 with a spare, so he's gonna drop down to 70 over. That's gonna leave Allgreen ahead. Anton Persson, I think, is gonna be sitting on second after this game, or pretty much tied with Emmanuel.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not many people is gonna shoot par besides them.
Emmanuel will do 190 this, so he will end up at 69 over. Emmanuel
Hmm.
got a spare in the 10th frame, so
Yeah, we're just gonna wait one more minute until we have the scores refreshed, and then we can update the information properly. Now we're just guessing a little bit,
yeah.
so it's gonna be 5 pins up,
You,
5
you
pins
also
down.
have Anton Persson, 61 over,
Mm.
also good. But best thing must be William Svensson, 2 squads over 13. I think
Nice.
that's really good.
is a very good bowler,
Yeah,
so
he is. He
makes
is.
sense.
He is.
All right, it's gonna be one more game before we end up this squad. We're gonna take a very short break again, couple of minutes, and we'll be back to you pretty soon.